current secretary and former professor of endocrinology from Taramani campus of Madras University. I heartily welcome him to this conference and 38th meeting of the society. I request Dr. Kaushik to welcome him with a bouquet. This conference is also the venue for 38th annual meeting of the society, and I am grateful to the executive committee members of the society who have come from different parts of the country, braving the uncertainty of the current COVID situation, and I heartily welcome them to the glorious university for this conference in the royal city of Mysuru. And we have made our best effort to make your stay very comfortable, and I kindly request your kind cooperation and understanding. If there are any deficiencies beyond our control, please bear with us. And I welcome all of you for this conference. Hosting the national conference requires not only funds, but also huge efforts and support by the people in this regard. I must place on record the untiring effort and support from my mentor, Professor N.B. Ramchandra, UGC Emeritus BSR Fellow, former chairperson of the Department of Genetics and Genomics, my guide and my mentor. I welcome him. And other faculty members, Professor G. Subramanya sir, Dr. Tejas, Dr. Amritavalli, Dr. Chaitra, Dr. Pratibha, Dr. Somana, Kaushik, and all research scholars, students, and staff from Department of Genetics and Genomics. I welcome them for this great auspicious occasion, and it is their total involvement that made this event possible. Otherwise, you must be knowing, in uncertainty, it is very difficult. They have given me moral support to go ahead with this occasion, and I am grateful to them, and I welcome them for this program. I take this opportunity to welcome all university authorities, registrar, finance officer, and other university people. Because of their support, we could able to do this function. So I welcome all of them, and I welcome my colleagues from the sister departments and my own department from Department of Zoology. I welcome all the colleagues and faculty members, teaching, non-teaching staff, and sister departments and media persons. With their support, we could able to do this YouTube online. This is going online. Entire 3 days program, anybody can watch anywhere from the country or outside also. So with that, I welcome all these media persons and people from ICD department, IOE, and finally I welcome one and all. I welcome Professor Shivananda Professor. He's man behind everything, doing all the activities. And I welcome all executive committee members, past president, present president, everyone. So once again, welcome to University of Mysuru, Department of Studies in Genetics and Genomics, and this holy city, Mysuru. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, madam. I now welcome Professor Sutturu S. Malini, who has sturdily anchored the whole event. I request Ms. Purti to welcome the man. Light is a universal symbol of truth, knowledge, and understanding. By lighting a lamp, we hope for the light to guide us in our endeavor and ensure success. So I request the dignitaries present to light the lamp and inaugurate the conference. Thank you, everyone. It now gives me immense pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker for the conference, Professor A.V. Ramachandran, mentor and Emeritus Professor, School of Science, Nagarjuna University, Vadodara, Gujarat. He completed his BSc, MSc, and PhD from Department of Zoology, the MS University of Baroda, Vadodara. He has over 40 years of experience in academia. He has published more than 250 research articles and papers in recognized peer-reviewed journals. He has over 2,500 citations. Professor A.V. Ramachandran has also received many awards in recognition for his scientific and academic contributions. To mention a few, he was awarded International Society of Andrology Award for Scientific Excellence at the 8th ISA Conference at Montreal, Canada in the year 2001. He is also the recipient of Professor Perunadu Govindarajulu Gold Medal for Career Research in Reproduction and Endocrinology in the year 1997. His research is multifaceted, which includes areas such as developmental physiology, metabolic endocrinology, reproductive endocrinology, toxicology, phytotherapy, and neonatal programming. Without further ado, sir, I now request you to deliver the keynote address.
You have the let's issue of the lights. Which is slide changing?
Sure, this will be used for slide changing. This is the pointer. So we start for changing.
Okay. Next one.
Go to the second slide.
Next slide, next slide. Hasn't put the next slide.
No.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I think you can click over this.
Yeah. Oh, I could do it. Yeah. Okay, fine. Then on the side, you got it. A very good morning to all of you. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Hemant Kumar, my friends and colleagues from the Society of Reproductive Biology and Comparative Technology, the organizers of the symposium from Mysuru, and all participants from different parts of the country. And I'm sure there's a more number of people attending the conference online. So this is the title of my talk here. Meditation, the stress buster, revelations from the brain and the endocrine system. Actually, when I was asked to deliver the keynote address, what came to my mind was this. I would not speak it out. You can read it for yourself. Okay. But then I think these are situational exigencies. And I was catapulted to the keynote speaker all of a sudden. And on behalf of the society, was happy to accept it. And when I was talking to some of my colleagues from the society about what to talk, one of my good friends told me, talk anything, whatever you want, no problem. Then another friend of mine added a rider saying, talk anything but science. And that too in the field. So I thought, if I'm talking about anything I want to, then I may talk about something which I've been involved with after my retirement as a spiritual science and spirituality. And meditation is one aspect of that. So I thought that could be the topic, anything. But then he wanted to be in the field of science, so I thought stress physiology, naturally a part of science. And then bridging the two, that is stress and meditation, are numerous hormones and neurochemicals. And that means I'm speaking in the field. So that's ultimately the thing. Now, the question is, when you talk about, I like to delve a little bit into stress before I look into what meditation does and how it can burst the stress and improve. So stress is actually an overwhelming situation for individuals. They find it very difficult to cope with. No answers, no solutions. They feel lost. And it could be due to situational, mental, or even emotional demands of processes from different walks of life. Now, this is more important is how the body responds to stress more than the stress itself. And there are many different situations and events in life which can cause stress. If you look into that, you have experiencing something new, for example, in life, or you may have some unexpected situations or events that threaten your own self, or those situations when you feel they are out of control. There are very many situations and events and possibilities of stressing ourselves. Now, dealing with stress, we do stress differently because every individual has a different genetic makeup, a different disposition. So response to stress also would vary. There are wide varieties of response to stress by different individuals. And this ability to respond to stress may depend on genetic. But there is a genetic disposition. There can be early life events, exposure in the fetal period or even in the early childhood periods. There could be personality problems. There could be socioeconomic, social conditions, economic, and number of circumstances. Now, this is a perception of people. The post-COVID time, the stress and anxiety was very high because of quarantine, lockdown, isolation, and working from home, etc. You know that you have been reading in the newspapers also, number of individuals underwent stress during the COVID period. Even now they are going through. Now, these are the different reactions to stress. People feel lost. So this is what happens. And these are lots of stressors around. Stress is a very complex situation with a number of things contributing to stress. And this is one of the reactions. Typically pull your hair, but then different people make different things when the situation is out of control. Now, every man's cup of tea is not the same. That's why people respond differently to stress. A situation that doesn't bother some people may bother others. So what is stress for me may not be stress for you and vice versa. And there's one statement that somebody made that I get stressed when things get out of perspective, too much work or thinking too far ahead. Now, this is another interesting situation where a man should have been feeling happy because his wedding was fake, he was going to get married. But you know what he said? He says, I never been more stressed in my life than the 6 months leading up to my wedding. Everyone kept asking me if I was happy and expecting me to be excited all the time, but I just couldn't feel it. I ended up getting ill. Look at that. This is a stress for him, but for many people, it's a very joyous situation, happy situation. Now, when we talk about stress, we cannot forget about the father of stress physiology, Dr. Hans Selye. He was a Hungarian doctor who worked in McGill University, Montreal, and he worked extensively on stress. He brought out the concept of fight and flight response to situations when you face a dangerous situation. And what he said was, it is not stress that kills us, but it's our reaction to it. Now, this is the concept of Selye, what he called the general adaptation syndrome. There are 3 phases when you face a situation. That first is the body starts reacting, alarm reaction starts, and then there are a number of things which happen in our body, all catapulted by adrenaline. It's an adrenaline burst or thrust that occurs. And ultimately, the levels go up, as you can see in the picture there. No. Okay. So the third phase is where the things come down to normal. This is his work with the laboratory, mostly worked with the laboratory rats, and there was one of your assistants was working with him, performing an autopsy. Now, if you look at the stress in the endocrine system, the hypothalamus is the most important controlling center in the body, in the brain, and it is the reaction of the hypothalamus for various conditions. For example, from various other brain parts, input may be coming into the hypothalamus. Hormones also interact with the hypothalamus, and also inflammatory chemicals also impinge on hypothalamus. And there are two important responses from the hypothalamus. One is, the first thing is the activation of the sympathetic nervous system, which acts on the adrenal medulla and brings about the release of adrenaline. On the other side, the hypothalamus activates the pituitary, anti-pituitary through CRH, which in turn elicits the secretion of ACTH, which acts on the adrenal cortex and brings about the secretion of cortisol. So adrenaline and cortisol together are the most important stress hormones which play havoc in our body. In a chronic situation, when these two hormones are high level, everything gets mucked up in our body. Now, this is the HPH activation exports. So that is, who puts in the input in the hypothalamus? The amygdala. Amygdala is a processor of all stress factors. All stress impinging on the amygdala is a processor which acts on the hypothalamus as well as the sympathetic nervous system. Like the hypothalamus, even the amygdala can activate the sympathetic nervous system, bringing about the release of adrenaline. And on the other side, again, cortisol is released to the classical HPA axis. Now, this is the adrenaline rush, which Dr. Celia talked about, which makes you to react when you face threatening situations, extreme situations. That you can see amygdala acting on the hypothalamus, bringing about the secretion, and then ultimately there's an adrenaline rush into the blood. Now, Now, when you talk about stress, the American Psychological Association has classified stress into 3 types. That's called acute stress, episodic stress, and chronic stress. But there's another way of classifying stress into eustress and distress. Eustress is a positive stress, mild stress, which helps you to perform better, keep up your day, do things well in your life, etc. Whereas the distress is a negative type of stress, which may start with acute stress and then by episodic and ultimately develops into chronic stress, which is also called the toxic stress, because that then impacts on all the systems of our body. Now, if you look at the stress statistics, about 82% of the Indians are stressed, according to one survey. And as per the COVID-19 study, about 88% are suffering from anxiety problems, 40% from stress and anxiety, and about 37% face loneliness, 37% work, they got the work-life balance getting upset. And the most affected population is what we call the sandwich generation in the age group of 35 to 49. That's almost 89% of the total stress people. Now, of course, students are the most stressed population, especially the school children, because lots of peer pressure to perform, score mark, grade, and everything, and also pressure from the school. And I think a number of reasons, of course, other reasons also could be there, but I'm sure every second day you can see a student has committed suicide before the examination or after the examination. So on average, 6.23 students commit suicide every day, taking the country exam. So question is, what is that extreme situation that makes the students to commit suicide? What is it? Now, this is what I call the stress the students face, and there's a heavy load of all kinds of things. Now, this is the stress which leads to visceral obesity, adipose development, and also metabolic syndrome. So essentially what happens is, this is the sympathetic nervous system, the stress, sympathetic is activated, which brings to the release of catecholamines, which leads to visceral obesity. This also leads to HPA activation, the classical hypothalamic pituitary adrenal activation, will lead to increased cortisol, also leads to visceral obesity. Health behaviors are also affected by stress, which leads to decreased physical activity, increased calorie intake, which again leads to adipose city. This is stress and effect on the thyroid axis as well as the immune response. In case of acute stress, actually, thyroid would be activated, more TSH and more T4, T3 will be there. Similarly, there'll also be increased immune activity. But under chronic stress, the situation gets changed. The TSH secretion is inhibited. The thyroid hormones become decreased. In fact, all the T3 will be reverse T3, RT3 in active form. And also the immune system is also suppressed because of cortisol. This is how it also affects the, as you can see here, cortisol inhibits GH, also inhibits sex steroid. Now you can see the growth hormone is affected. The steroid, sex steroid hormone gonadal functions are affected. And ultimately, this leads to again vessel adiposity and also affects different processes. Bone and muscle also get affected because steroid hormones are very important for bone and muscle development. And because cortisol inhibits sex steroids, that affects the bone structure and muscle structure as well. This is the schematic representation of stress system acting on the gastrointestinal function. That means your digestive system is also affected through the vagus nerve. It leads to inhibition of the gastric motility. At the same time, through the locus coeruleus, the nerve connection that acts to the sacral parasympathetic neurons will increase the colonic activity. That's how the digestive system or alimentary canal also gets affected. This is the immune system which acts on the target tissues, essentially the immune system that gets inhibited, is all we talked about. This entire circuitry and overall crosstalk at the hypothalamic level in the brain. There are important centers called, the insula, the anterior cingulate cortex, the median prefrontal cortex, the amygdala, and the hippocampus. These are the parts of the brain which are essentially involved in mediating stress responses as well as in overcoming, we can see how meditation helps in overcoming that. Now, if you look at the overall, if you look at the stress and health effects in a nutshell, first thing is stress changes gene expression. Number of genes expression is altered, and they will switch on or switch off genes, which will decide how much fat is deposited. You have seen adiposity increases, and how will your immune system functions, and how fast you age, and whether you will develop cancer, etc., will be decided by the genes which are manipulated by the stress. Then early life events also lead to increased stress in the adult life, which we never realize. It may be early fetal exposure through the mother or even early childhood exposures can lead to development of sensitivity towards stress in the later parts of the year. Then stress also alters the brain. Hippocampus is one of the important parts of the brain for memory that gets affected. Stress affects the immune system and increases inflammation. It affects wound healing, diminishes the protective effects of vaccine. Sometimes we don't know whether some of the people who are not getting protective vaccine in COVID-19, maybe this is one of the factors we need to look into. And also susceptibility to infections, and also in immunomodulatory stress can also, most important is, the stress can also reactivate latent infections. Certain viral infections which will be there may get reactivated. Damage the mitochondria as well, but then fortunately it is reversible with the reduction in stress. Stress also is the ability to metabolize and detoxify. For example, genes coding for lipolytic and drug detoxifying enzymes get downregulated, can lead to increased toxin burden and also can increase your desire for high fat, high sugar food. Now, stress also increases the cardiac output. They increase the thickness of the artery. It messes with your sex hormones, as you already seen, that can lead to lots of reproductive problems, and both in males and females, can affect libido. Stress is bad for bones and muscles, it gets weakened. And the gut, of course, we have seen gets affected. And also it leads to the growth of more of bacteria. You have a gut microbiome, the bacteria which stay in our gut. mostly have useful bacteria which help us, but there are also bad bacteria. In fact, stress increases the population of the bad bacteria. It will also lead to what is called leaky gut by disrupting the structural integrity of the mucosal line. So this is in nutshell, every part of the body gets affected by chronic stress. Now, what do you do with stress? Generally, we take some conventional treatments are possible, like counseling, psychotherapy or talking therapy. People talk to and reduce or minimize the stress of individuals, and also cognitive behavioral therapy. Then medications are this. The medications do not actually cure or solve a problem of stress. It only essentially reduces the symptoms. So some of the drugs that are consumed are antidepressants, antipsychotic drugs, sleeping pills, and even minor tranquilizers. Now, what is coming up in recent times is therapy through complementary and alternate therapies like yoga, meditation, aromatherapy, hypnotherapy, herbal medicines, and acupuncture. Now, these are the changes in the hormones and neurotransmitters that occur during stress. Cortisol, catecholamine, vasopressin, and prolactin are increased. Gonadotropin, sex steroid, thyroid hormone, growth hormone, insulin are decreased. And on the other side, when you look at the neurotransmitters, norepinephrine and glutamate are increased. GABA, dopamine, serotonin, and melatonin get decreased. Now we're going to the topic of meditation, how meditation could be the ultimate stress buster, how all those changes that you talked about could be reversed due to meditation. I don't know how many of you do meditation. Anyone does meditation? Okay, few. Now, there are different types of meditation. I don't want the details. There are so many modifications. Some of the basic things like focus attention, body scan, noting, visualization, loving kindness, skillful compassion, resting awareness, reflection, Zen meditation, transcendental meditation, yoga meditation, Vipassana meditation, Qigong meditation, and sound bath meditation. Still more, like mindful meditation. Now, this is the meditation that is employed by most of the scientists to study how meditation can influence and decrease the impact of stress. And you also have spiritual meditation. Of course, spiritual meditation are very many. It depends upon the spiritual sect or organization. There are very different types of. Of course, in spiritual meditation, I consider all other meditations as non-spiritual. Well, their aim is only to reduce the stress, increase the concentration, power, focus, and something like that. That's whereas spiritual has a different objective as well. Right? And depending upon the spiritual organization, the objective would be different. And then you have movement meditation, walking or gardening. And if you feel stress, you do all these things. And you have mantra meditation, a rhyme is given, you recite the rhyme mentally all the time. So mindful meditation is concentrating on thought. Whatever thought comes in, when you just concentrate on that without getting involved, without trying to analyze it, you just go through. Whatever thought comes, you just concentrate, that's all. It just as a participant, you are a neutral person watching it, that's all. That is the meditation that has been used by most of the scientists to evaluate the impact of meditation. Now, transcendental meditation, progressive relaxation, loving kindness, and all those we talked about. Now, what are the benefits of meditation? Meditation. Now, there are plenty of evidences coming forward to show that meditation has numerous beneficial effects. Meditation can offer general health and mental or emotional benefits, including it can lower the blood pressure, reduce the stress, induce a better sleep, improve the emotional regulation, increase focus and enhance mood, reduce aggression, greater adaptability, healthier aging process. You age slowly. I can say many of the people who meditate, they look younger. A greater sense of empathy and connectedness with others. Now, meditation may also help with symptoms of specific conditions, including depression, anxiety disorders, cardiovascular disease, such as arterial hypertension, dementia, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, insomnia, attention deficient hyperactivity disorder, which is called ADHD, and also in chronic pain. Now, the unfortunate thing is meditation is actually a practice of the Eastern world, especially from India. we ourselves have forgot this tradition. Is a Vedic tradition we started with, and we have almost lost those things. And we have to learn from outsiders. They now take up this practice, do scientific studies, and come out with positive effect. And when we have never bothered, we have actually lost our culture, our understanding, our everything. Okay, all our heritage. So meditation is actually, concentrating towards the inner faculty, not outside. It's looking inward. Essentially, you're looking at the level of inner self. You're looking back because you are not your body. The material science think the body is everything, the brain is everything, but they're missing a component called consciousness. Without the consciousness, you cannot explain life, you cannot explain the universe, and the consciousness is a very different level, which material science are slowly coming to accept gradually. So you're actually concentrating toward that inner self, your consciousness. Now, meditation can modulate brain mechanism, behavior, and sensing. Lots of scientific studies are being done, and scientific evidence are coming forward. There are evidence-based research that provides both direct and indirect evidence towards benefits of meditation. Now, what the global research agenda should be is to conduct controlled research on physiological, neuroendocrine, and neurological effects. Maybe the society is well placed for conducting such research, and also make comparison studies with other forms of psychotherapy to see whether meditation is much beneficial than psychotherapy. Now, the neurotransmitters are triggered that modulate psychological disorders such as anxiety. Now, question is, here is a we thought that we were born with the brain with a limited number of neurons and the synaptic connection. We cannot form new connections. We cannot form new neurons. Now that is now being busted by meditation. So very clearly there is neurogenesis. New neurons can be formed in certain parts of the brain, which prevents stress effect. And also new synaptic connections can also be established. This is published in Psychosomatic Medicine in 2021. And this is Tanya Singer, is a co-founder of the research on social neuroscience, and she is part of the Max Planck Institute. So you can see they're doing this work and showing that new neurons can be formed, new synaptic connections can also be formed. So you are not what you're born with only. Now, one of the neurotransmitters that is increased during meditation is serotonin. You call it as the happy neurotransmitter. And the study by Barry Jacobs from Princeton brain researcher he showed that depression sets in when fewer and fewer brain cells are created. So it's not able to. So there is reduction in serotonin during stress, as well as new neurogenesis is not possible. And also the stress and aging process also are the leading triggers of this. Then Frederick et al. From the University of Montreal, he studied mindfulness meditation and showed that there's a direct impact on the brain's production of serotonin levels. So mindful meditation increases the brain serotonin level. Now, that meditation produces so many neurochemicals that bathe the nervous system, which will ultimately lead to increased serotonin and a feeling situation. Now, cortisol, the most hormone which is behind every damage that it creates, meditation decreases the level. Now, this is acting at the root. You may act at other levels and control stress, but the root cause for stress is the increased cortisol level. And if you can cut off that, decrease it, that is a solution. And some studies have shown that meditation can effectively decrease the cortisol level. Now, this is the hormone which is lesser the better hormone. The lesser cortisol is much better. Now, in a 2013 research at UC Davis, they showed that mindfulness meditation reduced serotonin level within a few short weeks of meditation. And a retinopathy doctor showed meditation had a nearly 50% increase in serotonin level. Then GABA, this is called the calm chemical, which keeps you calm. And reduction in GABA will create lots of problems. because like including anxiety, nervousness, racing thoughts, sleeplessness, all can be caused when the GABA level is low. In 2010, psychiatrists at the Boston University School of Medicine showed there's a 27% increase in the GABA levels after only 60 minutes of mindful meditation. Only 60 minutes of mindful meditation increases. Now, the natural high, endorphin is the one which makes you feel high. I think our vice president will agree, he runs a lot, and running is the one which produces more endorphin, and he was happy. But then in 1995, Hart et al. Published in Biological Psychology Journal, when he tested the neurochemical release of GABA in 2 different groups of individuals, 11 elite runners who are very high elite runners, and 12 highly trained meditators. When you compare the production of endorphin by meditation, what they found is the meditators are much more higher endorphin level than the runners. The fundamental with the growth hormone. The growth hormone is the one which keeps you young. No doubt, the Hollywood actors spend more than $10,000 a year to look young because they take growth hormone supplements. Now, the number of the brain waves, alpha, beta, delta, theta, the growth hormone secretion occurs more in the delta wave. In the meditation, who undertake meditation have more of theta waves and delta waves. They're more peaceful. Whereas in non-meditators, usually the beta level is high. So there is a correspondence between the release of growth hormone and the delta. So perhaps meditators' naturally elevated growth hormone levels are why they tend to look so young and healthy. Scientists seem to think so. Now, this is a sleep molecule, melatonin, of course, is also called the Dracula hormone, which is secreted at night, which is the normal sleep-inducing hormone we all of us produce. As you age, the melatonin level starts going down. Now, meditation increases the melatonin level. Some of the studies have shown the increase in the melatonin level is to a tune of 98%, in some cases even 300% high. Now, melatonin is not only a sleep hormone, it is actually a superhero hormone because it has a number of effects. Originally, its function was to function as a powerful antioxidant in the body, into the sleep hormone. Now we know it can control cancer and many other diseases, heart problems, etc. Melatonin can effectively improve. Now, meditation can, harness neuroplasticity. There's certain parts of the brain will increase in size, in volume and thickness during meditation, as well as also show neural structures change, as well as new neurons are formed and synapses also form. So that's called neuroplasticity. Rebecca Glaring, MD, author of You Are Not Your Brain, recently wrote, "The brain and how we are due to fascinating and nothing short of anxiety." The parietal lobe is also a very important lobe. A study by UCLA professor of medicine, Dr. Steve Cole, showed that feeling connected, connectivity between individuals, interpersonal communication, that's a very happy situation which reduces stress. To others, strengthens immunity. This interpersonal communication and have good feelings with people improve or strengthen the immunity. While other studies have cited lower levels of anxiety and depression, higher self-esteem, empathy, and all those things by having interpersonal connection. But now, if you undertake meditation, if you even don't have the interconnection, it is easily can improve your system by modifying the parietal lobe. The parietal lobe undergoes growth under meditation. Yeah. See, the parietal lobe's loneliness heats up the parietal lobe, and meditation cools it down. So, University of Pennsylvania scientist Dr. Andrew Newberg took brain images of Tibetan monks, who take meditation. And as expected, their highly intelligent frontal lobes lit up because lots of neural activity was occurring in the parietal lobe when undertaking meditation. So that's what you're talking about. Now the corpus callosum. Now when you talk about the brain, Dr. Sperry's model suggested all are either right brain or left brain. Some people are using more of the right brain. Some people are using more of the left brain. Accordingly, we have our own, what we are good in. Now, Dr. Sperry's model suggests that left brain people are generally more logical, practical, and analytical, often better at maths and science. And right brain people are generally more imaginative, intuitive, and sensual, often excelling at philosophy and arts. But now it's now changing that concept. There are a number of people who use both parts of the brain. Albert Einstein was one working, the whole brain man. So certain parts of this model have been updated over the last 40 years. Neuroscientists have recently learned that highly creative people are actually whole brain thinkers rather than just right brain thinkers. Now, what about you talk about Elon Musk, Richard Branson, and Steve Jobs? What are they? Where do they fit into? Would they have the left brain, the right brain? In fact, they seem to be also whole brain people. And brain imaging studies have shown that highly successful, massively creative people are both brain half users. Now, Einstein's brain was posthumously studied, and we've shown that he was using both were active. Now, one thing that helps in making both the brain halves to work together, the corpus callosum, the railroad of connectivity between the two halves, the east and the west, are meet together. A stronger corpus callosum will help using the whole brain. Both the brains are used, and it has been shown that meditation increases the density of the corpus callosum, which enables us to use both parts of the brain. So if we want to, suppose we ask a question, I want to make my brain highly connected, balanced, and working in sync like these superhumans, is it possible for us mortals? The answer is yes. So this is, the central part shows what it is. A balanced utilization is possible by a strong development of the corpus callosum. Meditation, in fact, helps in developing the corpus callosum. So this is a Sperry's model where only one part of the brain being used. And harmonizing both the parts is the most important thing, where meditation might play an important role. Now, a 2012 UCLA School of Medicine study found that the corpus callosum, the grand central station like cable of nerves cross-linking the brain hemispheres, was remarkably stronger, thicker, and more well-connected in meditational practitioners. So by constructing hyper-connected, ultra-efficient bridge between our brain halves, meditation puts an abrupt end to our neuro-cold war, the cold war between the west and the east half of the brain. Okay. Now, this is the hippocampus, which is also called the happy hippocampus. The hippocampus is very much important for lessening the strengths and make persons happy. The Washington University School of Medicine studies by Sheldon et al. In 1999 by MRI images of the brain showed that the hippocampus of the depressed patients had atrophied. So usually depressed people have atrophied hippocampus. And a 2008 study published in the Neuroimage Journal found that after only 8 weeks of meditation, the left and the right hippocampus of participants has significantly grown in neural thickness, density, and overall size. So what do you think? Save yourself a trip to the gym. Meditation is your A-certified hippocampus personal trainer. Remember everything hippocampus, everything memory. Hippocampus is concerned with memory. So there are some people who can remember so many things, so many digits, like, Akira Haraguchi, a 70-year-old man, as well as Ken Jennings. The question is, can we do that? Can we also be that way and remember more things? Yes, the possibility is you strengthen your hippocampus, and meditation is a solution to strengthen hippocampus. It has been shown that hippocampus does grow in size over a period of meditation. Now, this is what Dalai Lama said. If you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion. So the anterior insula, as I showed, the part which is involved is responsible or compassionate love. So practicing compassion and kindness opens the door to a host of health benefits, like what? From living longer to alleviating anxiety, to lifting depression, to strengthening immunity, and the list goes on. Now, a highly cited UCLA School of Medicine study found that the right anterior dorsal insula of meditators to be highly active during the meditation session. This is the emotional. Now, a Times magazine said, IQ gets you hired, but EQ gets you promoted. That is emotional quotient. There's a new quotient that has come in, the emotional quotient. In 1996, a world-renowned psychologist, Dr. Daniel Goleman, published a groundbreaking book that turned the psychological community on its head. In 2016, a team of Spanish and German researchers did fMRI imaging of the brain of 13 meditation newbies. And after 40 days of mindful training, what they found was, in addition to massively reducing anxiety and depression, the meditators had, in just 6 short weeks, significantly increased the internal consistency of the temporoparietal junction. The TPA junction is very important. Now, this is the amygdala, which grows in size under stress and gets decreased during melatonin. This is the main player which creates all problem. And we say we can take the caveman out of the cave, but we can't take the cave out of the cave. But if you practice meditation, you can take the cave out of meditation. Now, this is another one, that is the prefrontal cortex is more intelligent. In ancient, you had a large one. Now, this is finally what I say. The incredible finding means that adding meditation to our daily routine can, in essence, reverse depression, dirty wheels, no matter how deeply our tires are dug in, while bulletproofing our brain to future attacks. So in 6 weeks of meditation, people have improved quite a bit. The neuroscientific community now sees meditation as the holy grail. Okay, now it is evident that meditation is an effective treatment for anxiety and it does not suffer from any side effects. It may also function as a preventive medicine. Therefore, it is highly recommended to everyone and not limited to patients suffering from disease. Thank you very much. And proof of the pudding lies in eating it. So start practicing meditation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I now request Honorable Vice Chancellor, University of Mysore, Professor G. Hemanta Kumar, to deliver the presidential address.
Ilrugu Namaskara. Very good morning to you all. So I'm very happy that today the National Conference on Reproduction and Endocrinology, which is the event organized by Genetics and Genomics of University of Mysore in association with the Society of Reproductive Biology and Comparative Endocrinology. So I was very happy to inaugurate this. And today we have our chief guest, Professor Ramachandran, who gave a keynote address, and Dr. Suresh, the Vice President of the Society, and Professor Michael Aruldas, the Secretary of the Society, and Professor Malini, who is the Organizing Secretary of this conference. All honored guests. We have Professor N.B. Ramachandran, Professor Subramania, and Professor Shivanandappa, and all other professors from different departments, and from the Department of Genetics and Genomics, research scholars, invitees, media friends. Today is a great privilege for me to welcome you to this conference at Mysuru University, and very happy to be in the inaugural function of National Conference on Reproduction and Endocrinology. So you have heard Professor Ramachandran, the keynote address. Normally I will inaugurate and go away. So yesterday, I came to know that I'm the president of this function. So I'll have to give the presidential address. So the keynote address, Professor Ramachandran gave a wonderful talk. I congratulate Professor Ramachandran. The meditation and trust booster and also relevance of the brain and endocrine systems. And really it is a both philosophical and also scientific talk. I hope everyone enjoyed this. I really enjoyed the talk because I am not a geology man, I'm not a genetics man, I'm a computer science man. So it was just a good touching topic. And with this national conference, we have 38th meeting of the Society of Reproductive Biology and Comparative Endocrinology. I'm happy to support this conference, which was proposed by the organizer, Professor Malini, who is the chairman of 2 departments, zoology and also genetics in the university. She is also very dynamic and what we call get the things done for the department and all other academic activities. I hope if we go back to the history of this genetics department, Professor H.A. Ranganath, who was the founder of this department in 2005, which was supported by J. Shashidhar Prasad and opened a separate branch or separate course in zoology department itself. In 2012, Professor K. Rangappa, with his support, he built a separate department under ROSA grants, what you obtained. Now you have got the genetics and genomics, a separate department, which was led by Professor N.B. Ramachandran for a long time. Then after his retirement, I asked, so who shall I make as the chairman of the department? Because Ramchandra was a student of Ranganath, he made him the coordinator for the course. And later on, he suggested, make Professor Malini, she will be active and also related to this subject. And since almost 1.5 years, this department is going well. So it requires great efforts and commitment and to organize the number of conferences. And this department, in view of the COVID situations also, this department has conducted a number of conferences. I'm happy to note this. And which was many people who were participating online. Understand the society which is supporting today for this conference, which has got the existence of more than 40 years, conducting meetings all over country. In Mysuru this year, it is being conducted after second time after 10 years. I'm congratulate the SC, the Society of Reproductive Biology and Comparative Endocrinology Society, and also I'm thankful for this society on behalf of the university. I'm happy to note that Mysuru University has got the Center of Excellence in Research in the area of comparative endocrinology and also reproductive biology, as well as the genetics. It was earlier in the Department of Zoology and gave birth to this department, as I told. So I was told that research in this area was started in Mysuru University in early 1930s in Central College, Bangalore, which was the part of the Mysuru University at that time. So the Center of Scientific Research is therefore the pioneer in this field in India. Further, I'm happy to share that Mysuru University has achieved the recognition of Center of Advanced Study due to outstanding research contributions in the area of reproductive biology and genetics, which is a matter of great pride. Very few universities in India have achieved this. I'm sure that the great scientific deliberations at this conference will be done. I'm thankful for coming to this university and enjoy the hospitality and beautiful campus of our department. And before concluding, this department is a recent department which is separated out from this. It needs a lot of support. Nowadays, government is not giving money. You know, since almost 5 years, central government stopped the granting. State government will not look forward any posts and other things. Only solution for this, we have to start some consultations, some industry interactions, where that industry can support at least 50% to the scientific research that is being done. For this, what best is possible, this department and university will really think in future. So in future, no post will be given by the government. We have to create the salary. So we have to, now this national education policy has come in. This national education policy says that is, it is a very ambitious policy. Definitely, it has got very good, what we call principles if you really work out. It says that now the university government is giving 1.5% of GDP for education. It recommends to give 6% of GDP. Really, if it happens, so then it is possible. Yesterday and day before yesterday, last week, I was in a Vice Chancellor's conference of South Zone. I just told the government, if at all, if you want to make this program or this policy successful, recruit 3,000 teachers every year for 5 years. Make it as what we call a appointment drive, teachers appointment drive. Not only to the university, but for state colleges and other things. And then we'll have to all think of this primary school teachers also, whether you make a permanent appointment or contractual appointment and other things. So this is the way where the new subjects will have to come in, and teachers and students will have to orient towards the different dimension of research. So this is possible only if we take the initiative. This initiative today, all different peoples from India, they all come here, and you are throwing the light on the subject of reproductive biology and other cases. And someone suggested me, why don't you start computational biology? So really it is a new topic. I'm worried is once I start the course, how to sustain it? How to sustain it? So we'll have to think. Anyway, still another 1 year I'm here. If possible, we'll start the course in the same what we call area. So with this, the organizers have put great effort to make this conference. I thank the society for giving the opportunity to the University of Mysuru to serve the scientific community and hosting this conference. I wish that conference will be great success and great time of, it's a great time for the delegates. Thank you very much. I wish you happy stay for 2 days in Mysuru and in our campus. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We now have reached the end of the inaugural function, and to formally extend our gratitude to all of you, I request Dr. Tejas Kalastavadi to deliver a vote of thanks.
Thank you. So at the outset, I'd like to say that it's a privilege and honor to deliver the vote of thanks. First of all, I'd like to extend a thank you to the SRBC Society for giving us the opportunity to organize this conference at the University of Mysore and to the Department of Genetics. I'd like to thank our Vice Chancellor, our Registrar, and Finance Officer for extending their cooperation in organizing this conference. All the faculties of genetics and the zoology departments for giving their time and effort in bringing this conference together. Obviously, the SRBC Society in helping us disseminate all the information to all the delegates, and various guest houses that we have been able to obtain, All India Institute of Speech and Hearing, Central Institute of Languages, Manasa, and the Academic Staff College for providing us with their guest houses. The Fine Arts College, specifically Ningraj and group for singing our Nadagite, the IOE for providing this auditorium, and the ICD for giving us the technical expertise to telecast this live on the internet. The Garden Department, our fellow friends at the press, research scholars and students of various departments in helping organize this conference. And finally, I'd like to thank all the delegates who have made the effort in this time of COVID pandemic to come and attend in person and also online. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. A reminder for everyone, if you haven't already registered, please make sure that you do and get your accessories. We shall now break for tea for 15 minutes and the sessions will begin after.